Okay guys, now we're going to go through the sources and use sheet. This is a great little tool to easily create slides to put into your pitch deck. So the point of your pitch deck and the process of raising is to get money, right? So one of the key questions people are going to have is, how are you actually going to spend this money? This sheet helps you work that through. Now, it's important to understand that this is based on operating cash flow, not your P&L type revenue, okay? Because this can be actually indicating the amount of money you actually spend and the money that you're going to be taking in. Cool? So let's start off with this here. Oops. So the first assumption you're going to want to type in is, what is the actual date that you think you're going to close your round, have money in the bank, and when the clock eventually starts running? And that clock is going to run for a certain period of time, right? Now in here, I've assumed that the actual start date is going to be on June 2017, and that you're going to raise for 18 months. Now, why have I assumed 18 months? Well, you ideally want to have a full 12 months of execution before you have to hit the road again and start raising money, which of course is a huge pain. So 18 months. 12 months plus approximately about 6 to compensate for the amount of time that it might take you to raise a round and have a little bit of a buffer, right? So if we type in June 2017 and your months of runway is going to be 18, then you're going to run out of money in November 2018. Now, what are the implications of this runway? So the math pulls out the numbers during that time period and says, on a gross basis, not including revenue you're going to have, you're going to spend about $3.8 million. Now, the next formula effectively just rounds it up. You see here, it takes the last 3 digits out, pushes up to 4. So you want to change that to 2. Then you would raise 3.9. We're just rounding this up to nice clean numbers because you don't really hear people say I'm raising 3.812 million, right? It's more going to be like 4 million. Now, your net billings, the cash you're going to be taking in, is about 2.2, which means that your total net burn after deducting for your costs is going to be about 1.6. So rounding that up to 3 places, your actual required raise, including your net, is going to be $2 million. It's probably a better idea not to take the net, but to take the gross instead, because you can't totally be certain about the money you're going to get, but you can have a little bit more certainty about how much you're going to spend, right? It's a little bit easier to spend the money. So that's why it's probably a better idea to think of this on a gross rather than a net basis. Now, the last 2 parts here are simply to say, well, if you decide you want to raise 3 million instead of the 2, then the implied gross will give you about 17 months of runway. Let's just change that here. Now, that's just useful for you to help figure out the amount of money you want to raise. Now, once you've done that, we have this great Marimekko chart or Mekko chart, which, consultants like McKinsey, Bain, BCG, these types love this. This is like a slightly atypical approach to presenting your sources your use of the cash, to put it better, on your sources and use page or the ask page, right? Now, what does this do? It is a summary in a percentage basis of all the costs you're going to have. Now, what we've done is we've bucketed things up on a column basis between your salaries, other, which is the non-salary related costs, and your paid marketing spend. And we can see in total, these add up to about 64% for salaries, around 20% for other, and about 17-ish% for your paid spend of marketing. So you can see that across on the columns. Now on the rows, you can see for each bucket what the allocation is for each of these parts. So we can see now here that your R&D spend for your salary is about $895,000, which is something around 34-35% of your salary bucket. The COGS and your G&A and S&M are something in the region of about 20-25% each. Now, your other category accounts for about 20% of the total, and each of these buckets is around the region of 10% or 30%, and of that full bucket for marketing spend, it's 100% for that column, but that equates to around 20%. So I think this is a really cool way of presenting how you're actually going to use your funds across a number of dimensions. Now, we've got some really funky support here for your charting options. And if you just want to click little buttons here, it automatically adds your category names or reduces the amount of the blocks, adds a percentage of the category, and you can, delete these things as and how you like it. We notice here that this doesn't fit quite well, right? So what if we just go here and we'll remove if it's got a height higher than 15%. So boom, R&D is now gone. It looks a little bit prettier. So have a play with this and see how you like it. But this is a great little slide that you can just copy and paste into PowerPoint. So now we have a nice little cool slide which fits in there. And you can write like how much money you're raising and say this is how we're going to spend our money. And probably best case is to add some milestones of what you're going to achieve. Alternatively, you can of course just move this, make it a little bit smaller, put your milestones here, how much you're raising, and I think this looks pretty cool. Now that's a new way of doing it. The old way is your nice little friend, the pie chart, which simply just says that 25% is on R&D, 36% is on S&M, 20% is on G&A, and 20% is on your COGS. That's great. You can copy and paste that in as well, just like we just did, and use that if you prefer. Now here is a great little summary cost you can show of how you're going to forecast for your period that you just decided that you were going to have your run. And this shows your costs and your billings and your MRR. A great pitch deck, which I really like, is Front's pitch deck for their Series A. And this is a slide that they had in that. So I highly recommend putting that in as an additional one, possibly as a replacement for your financials, because people like charts, right? Now, if you're wondering where all this data comes from, what we've done here is we've disaggregated all of your costs. So you can see, this is not very pretty. So we can see your cost by all the categories. And now this includes absolutely everything, every single cost in your model, and they've been allocated in a certain way. So if you're wondering what's been gone into G&A, you can just click down here and see all the staff and the schedule that they're coming in. The related G&A costs for running your office, travel, rent, etc. coming in here, even office refurbishment costs. Check out your COGS, R&D, etc. and the amount of money that's coming in. Right? So if people ask, well, can you explain exactly how this works? What are the numbers that include in there? You say, well, 1 second, let me just pull this up, and you can map it out really nicely. Now, right at the end, just so you know, we have some dirty little calculations for the charts. Here's the Marimekko chart, and here's the pie chart. You don't need to play with this. You can just type in your assumptions up here, and it'll get populated very nicely for you. Cool. So hopefully that's really going to be useful for you once you've put in the work, mapped out all your forecasts for your revenues and your costs, and want to actually put it to use and put those pictures in your beautiful pitch deck. Okay. Hopefully you understand that.